For a look at the day's business news, and for that, William Hildebrand is here, and he's beginning with Europe offering help to those affected by Russia's food ban.
That's right. This made headlines as being a tit-for-tat reaction to the West's sanctions over Ukraine. Now, Moscow imposed that ban as it was angry for the West over the sanctions. The European Commission is making available $125 million in emergency funding for fruit and vegetable growers hit by the move. Lithuania, Poland, Finland, and Denmark each face losses running into the hundreds of millions of euros. Fruit and veg are one of the EU's biggest agricultural export sectors to Russia. Delano de Souza has more.
Exceptional measures designed to cushion the impact of Russia's food import ban. The European Commission has pledged 125 million euros to fruit and vegetable growers. They say they're unfairly bearing the brunt of Europe's policies in Ukraine. The emergency steps are set to reduce the overall supply of perishable products.
The whole idea, if you've just got supply and demand, following the Russian restrictions, there's much more supply on the market. This is a measure aimed at reducing the level of supply so that the prices don't drop below or don't drop to crisis levels.
The aid is set to take immediate effect and will last until November. It's destined for growers of carrots, peppers, apples and pears, amongst other products. In 2013, the European Union exported 1.26 billion euros of fruit and 769 million worth of vegetables to Russia, taking the total to just over 2 billion. The new measures are an extension of a deal announced last week by the European Commission to pay peach and nectarine growers for 10% of their crop. Russia's food import ban is set to impact the economies of Lithuania and Poland the hardest. And while the embargo also covers the import of dairy, fish and meat products, those sectors haven't yet been helped. The European Commission says it will continue to monitor market developments and not hesitate to step in and aid other sectors heavily dependent on exports to Russia.
Now, tension in Ukraine has affected exports from the 18-member Eurozone and squashed hopes of an export-led recovery. Overall, exports fell 0.5% in June compared to May. Demand in Russia fell 14%. The country's in the middle of an economic crisis, and 8% in Turkey, which is also suffering an economic slowdown. Now, that figure in Russia could likely worsen as this data came before Moscow imposed that food ban. Well, Russia has said there's been no progress made in reaching a ceasefire in Ukraine, but tension over an aid convoy it sent to the country has been resolved. And that news seems to have calmed investors' jitters on the market so far. U.S. stocks jumped. Earlier, the Nasdaq hit a 13-year high, and the Dow Jones jumped 150 points. We can see there right now trading's up 1% on the Dow Jones. Let's take a look now at some company news, beginning with China, where regulators continue to put pressure on foreign car makers in the world's largest auto market. According to state media, Mercedes-Benz has been found guilty of price fixing. So far, no penalty has been announced. Chinese authorities have been investigating the cost of spare parts, but the European Chamber of Commerce in China says European companies are being unfairly targeted. So far, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, and Volkswagen, among others, have pledged to lower prices. And it's a takeover battle between budget stores. Dollar General has made an offer worth $9.7 billion to buy Family Dollar. The merger would create a group with 20,000 stores in 46 U.S. states. Dollar General's bid tops the $8.5 billion offer last month by Dollar Tree. These so-called dollar stores expanded rapidly during the U.S. economic downturn. And Monarch Airlines is reportedly planning to cut its workforce by as much as 30%. That means 1,000 people would lose their jobs. Management is conducting a strategic review on how to cut costs, including the possibility of ending long-haul flights. The British company is repositioning itself as a low-cost carrier that would compete with Ryanair and EasyJet. Time now for one last story. Have you already got a vacation home? Maybe 2, 3? If you're like me, you're still working on hopefully having one. Well, if that's the case, head to Italy. A Sicilian village is selling dozens of abandoned homes for just €1. The town hopes buyers will restore the buildings, which would create new jobs and give a boost to a population that's plummeted more than 50% over the past century. Let's listen now to one of those prospective buyers.
We're up to 80 houses today, counting those we gave away for €1 and the others we sold at low prices. Some people came here to look at the €1 houses and ended up finding other very cheap houses on sale. Lots of Australians, Americans, English people, Swedes.
That's it for me now. That's all the news I'll be back in an hour. Jade, I'll tell you what, I'm thinking about getting one of those houses.
It looks like a bargain, I have to say. Thanks very much for that, Will Hildebrand. Right, next we're going to have a look at the sports news and start with